I'm Lance Phillips. It's Valentine's Day. Kinger, what are you getting me on this lovely day?
I'm getting you more quality time with me, Chris King, and maybe a cup of tea.
What kind of tea?
Something with no caffeine, latte frappe.
A latte frappe?
Yeah.
I'd like an extra hot, extra foam frappe mochaccino with some syrup on the
skim milk and a half side.
There's so many combinations. Lance Phillips, Chris King with you. The gloves are off on this Valentine's Day. Kinger, what are you doing on Valentine's Day, really?
I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag. I am doing nothing. I have practice. I'm gonna say, sorry, I was busy. What about yourself?
I'm here. This is what's happening.
Yeah, I'll be in trouble for this for about a year, but
yeah, that's okay. Hey, a couple of big wins for your ladies on the weekend.
One
win. One win.
Solid outing on Saturday. They played better, and some big outings by freshmen. So clinched playoffs.
Clinched a playoff seed.
We're there. We're going.
You think you can capture that first place spot?
We got a shot, but we have to win out, and we'll see what happens. We're going to the dance. That's all that matters. You just got to get there.
Do you think you will dance? Think you can dance?
I think so. I think we can dance.
Will you do the jig or will you do the waltz? What do you think?
I'm more of like a hip hop, like Dougie.
The hip hop.
We will Dougie.
An abrasive hip hop dance.
Yes.
All right. Listen, we'll start on the national stage with Jerry Howarth, who has been the Blue Jays broadcaster for 36 years, announcing his retirement mainly due to health reasons concerning his voice, which is obviously a key part to his role. Announced his retirement Tuesday. Kinger, what does Jerry Howarth mean to the Blue Jays? What has he meant to the Blue Jays?
He's been everything. He's been everything for the Jays. Any game that I listened to growing up, whether it was on Sirius Radio or the regular like FM, AM dials, it was his voice. Just listening to his interviews talking about stepping down.
Silky smooth.
Yeah, it just gives you shivers. And I think that's the cool thing about our generation is you still grew up in a vehicle listening to Blue Jays when you're driving to places, whether it's to play ball or whatever.
That's the fascinating thing is that this guy, in an era where you couldn't listen to Blue Jays baseball any other way than on the typical AM dial, this was the voice you heard. And if it wasn't him, it was Tom Cheek.
Yeah.
And I mean, to do anything for 36 years is an accomplishment. I mean, it's incredible, is what it is. But like I said, silky smooth voice. Yes, sir, and there she goes. Like, you just can't beat that kind of stuff, right? And the sad part to me, excuse me, is years down the road, there's going to be an era of people who have never heard this guy. And there's going to be an era at some point where they don't even know who you're talking about.
And I think that's a common thing in sports now is I think the people change so much. Like, this was it. This was Blue Jays for anyone that grew up. This is all they heard. Now, a lot of times in pro sports, you're having announcers that change positions 2 or 3 years or bounce from job to job. It's not the way it used to be like a Vin Scully where that was just the voice of baseball. He was the Canadian voice of baseball.
I say this with some holdback, he's irreplaceable. Because I think in a lot of ways, this guy is irreplaceable. And to a lot of fans like yourself and myself who grew up listening to this guy, he's irreplaceable. You're not going to get someone like him. But there will be someone that fills the void who eventually will become a great broadcaster, and if they're not already. And, you know, you'll get used to that voice, and you'll be fine with it. But you'll always remember what Jerry Howarth and Tom Cheek even, what they were for the Blue Jays and Blue Jay fans.
Yeah,
so it's kind of a sad way that he can't go out on his own terms in a way. But just an incredible guy for the Blue Jays organization for 36 years. 36 years.
That's such a long time. And the Jays will do a good job recognizing him in the future. Johnny Manziel did an in-depth interview talking about some of his struggles the last couple of years, dealing with depression and other things. Lance, do you believe this remorse from Johnny Football?
Yeah, I do. Look, as someone who struggles with depression, anxiety, and mental issues, I 100% feel, I can see it when I watch him. I think a lot of people would say it's BS. I don't believe that for a second. Look, he talks about self-medicating with drugs and alcohol. And I know there's days when I feel like I can't even get out of bed. And the way that I deal with that is to try and keep away from everything. I can imagine if I became addicted to drugs and alcohol, that's how I would get myself out of bed and get myself going. And I'll have a few drinks and I go out and party and I have a good time. I can totally see that. I can 100% see that. And so he has now found a way to deal with the mental anguish that he has without drugs and alcohol. And I 100% watched that interview and thought, this is a straight and narrow for this guy.
Yeah, very, very interesting to watch. And I've said on the show several times, I'm not a fan of him or his character. Watching that interview really changed
because of who he was, though.
Exactly.
Because of who he was.
And as he said in the interview, that's not who he is or who he wants to be, but the alcohol and the partying and the drugs was to cover up all the feelings he couldn't deal with.
For sure.
And just to see his face there, I'm interested now to see what happens. And so many athletes deal with this, and so many athletes don't have a come-to-terms moment, and it seems like he's had that, and he's really focused on, making himself better. He clearly wants to play football, but he's more concerned about the little steps he talks about every day he needs to take to keep himself on the straight and narrow.
It's abundantly clear, too. He came to the realization that, look, if I don't solve this problem, I'm not ever going to play football again. So, his love of that game and his want to play the game at a high level again has trumped everything, and it's made him understand, like you said, listen, I got to get over this. But yeah, watching it and just thinking about, how I would perform or how I would go about my life if I was self-medicating with those types of substances, which I never have, so I can't really attest to it. But when I think about it, I'm like, yeah, I can see how I could. Yeah. I see how I could get by day to day doing that, because all the cares or all the worries you have they're being masked by that.
Yeah.
It's really a fascinating thing, and frankly, I urge anybody to go watch that ABC interview and check it out, because it's fascinating, for lack of a better term. What's not fascinating are the Chicago Blackhawks. Since a 2-1 loss to the Nashville Predators on January 30th, the Blackhawks have lost 6 straight games. They're in a dire situation. They may miss the NHL playoffs. They're mired in the basement of the Central Division. Kinger, what is wrong with Chicago? What needs to be done in Chicago?
There's a lot of things that need to be done. I think you could start and end with goaltending. You look at the elite teams in the NHL.
Interesting. You think Corey Crawford's the problem?
Yeah, well, I think it's part of the problem. I think the biggest
he's been injured.
I think biggest problem is that you have an aging roster that you tried to keep together. They won in 2010, 2013, 2015, and I think they did it for the players' loyalty and to the fans. And now you're kind of paying the salary cap price in terms of you've let some guys walk away that would have been great to have under the salary cap.
Tried to bring back they brought back Brandon Saad, Patrick Sharp, trying to resurrect, the old crew.
Good old days.
Yeah, the older crew. And it's not working. You mentioned the age. 27.63 years is the average age of this roster. It's the 7th oldest roster in the NHL. This is the big problem.
Yep.
The team is getting older. And when a team gets older, they don't play at the same level of performance. The other thing is, some of their top players haven't been their top players. Jonathan Taves is having one of the worst statistical seasons for the first time in 10 years offensively.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not playing well.
And that could be a number of factors. His personal play, line mates,
sure,
defensive responsibility. Yeah, you're right. The good players haven't been as good as normal, but with the age comes injuries, comes nicks. And at some point, they're going to have to decide, hey, do we go back to how we built this, blow it up, draft good players? I'd also say hanging on to their defense core, right, as they started to age, and sticking with them has been a little bit of a problem.
I mean, not only that, little things like their power play is operating at 15.4%. It's the 3rd worst in the NHL. Yeah. And again, this goes back to having those elite players and a lot of that top-end talent not performing when you should be performing. Yeah. That power play should be ticking along at over 20%. Yep. And it's not. It's dreadful. And the team is dreadful.
And we keep talking about that. You have to score on the power play. Your special teams have to be good to compete. Plain and simple.
No, for sure.
Yu Darvish signed a 6-year, $126 million deal with the Chicago Cubs. Lance, does this make the Chicago Cubs a contender or the favorites now in this MLB season?
I don't think that one guy can particularly, it can be said that one guy can change the face of a franchise. I mean, you could make the case that Aaron Judge had his breakout year helped the Yankees. Yeah, it helped. Yeah. Didn't make the Yankees what they were. There's a lot of other good performances in there. Yu Darvish came off a bad World Series, came off a bad playoff run. He hasn't had great seasons the last couple of years. But look, this guy is still, I haven't answered your question yet. This guy is still a top 20 starter in baseball.
Agreed.
He makes the team better. He helps them become a serious contender. Is he the be-all, end-all? Absolutely not. But he's a nice piece, a nice addition.
So, and this is the thing with this huge addition. I think he's still, as you said, an elite pitcher. He's in that elite range.
Definitely.
So the Cubs won in 2016. They went 92-70 last year, made the NL Championship Series. They were a good team without him.
Yeah, for sure.
You add him. Now, the question remains, What happens with Arrieta? Do they get Arrieta back? They signed a few more pitchers. They added some depth to their bullpen. I think this team is a legit contender in the NL. I would not be surprised if I see them versus the Dodgers. Now, it would scare me to see Darvish implode again in playoffs because he's going to have to be really good.
That hasn't been his career, right?
No.
That's been the issue since he had Tommy John surgery in 2014.
Yes.
But it hasn't been the issue over the course of his career. Listen, he came into the league at 25 years old. So in that time, since he came over from Japan, only 17 pitchers have created more wins above replacement than this guy. And 2 of them are on his team, John Lester and Jose Quintana.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've got 3 guys. He's never been less than 3.5 WAR when he's played an entire season. He's going to give these guys wins. He's going to help them be better. And adding that many more wins, provided he can get back to the form he was in pre-2014, gives them more than 92 wins, I believe.
And I think he adds the depth to that rotation.
Right.
If they have an injury, now they have 3 really good arms. They might add a 4th, and they have a bunch of guys that are going to do well in that 4 or 5 spot. I think it's a huge add for them.
Right, and ideally, he's not the injury you just talked about.
Yes, you hope not.
And a lot of people would not want to root for this guy just because they don't want to root for the Cubs in Canada. But I don't know how you can't root for the guy. He had a major surgery in his elbow, and he's trying to make a comeback in a way. And I think it's a cool story, especially if he can return to that form. That's a cool story. Another cool story comes out of the NFL. It's Jimmy Garoppolo. This guy has been a backup for 4 seasons until the 49ers picked him up this past season, signed a 5-year, $137.5 million contract. Can he, Kinger, bring the 49ers back to former glory?
Yeah, I think he's the guy. They're paying him like he's the guy.
He's played less than a dozen games in his career. He started less than a dozen games.
Yeah, and it's very interesting to hear his teammates talk about him in the 5 games he's been at San Fran, about how he took control of the locker room, how he led on the field, how everyone was so impressed, the way that all the guys bought in right away. And a lot of that comes from the team that we always talk about.
For sure it does.
What he learned behind Tom Brady and Belichick
Definitely.
over there. And I think that's the reason why San Fran was so eager to jump in on this, because they said, this is a guy. We know quarterbacks are what you have to win. And they said, we're going all in with this guy. We believe in him.
It doesn't matter what football league you play in. You could be playing the CFL, the NFL. You could be playing touch football down the street.
Wheatland Football League.
If you don't have a good quarterback, you are done. That this is the one sport where you could make the argument that one player makes a difference.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And now, free agents, geez, Jimmy's really good. Well, I want to play with Jimmy. I'll take a pay cut. They have the number 9 pick. Your boy, Barkley, might get drafted in that spot. You're adding a huge piece.
He ran out the season winning games in San Fran on a team that had They hadn't won a game. They went 0-9 or to start the season or something like that.
Yeah, and they beat the Rams and the Jags down the stretch in those games, both playoff teams.
And there's your coach. How much is there to be said for having a guy in the locker room that can take leadership, that can take over those intangibles that don't happen out on the field?
Absolutely huge. You need that more than the play on the field. You can Jimmy could play a little bit lower level as long as he's leading the team properly.
We've had this conversation before about, would you rather have a player that has elite level talent, but not the drive, not the leadership, none of those qualities, or a guy that has, pretty good talent, but he's got everything else that you need, leadership qualities. He can, he helps guys come up when they're down. Like, what would you rather have? Clearly the latter.
The latter, for sure, 100%.
And he's a guy who, based off what we've seen, has elite level talent and all those things. So it's a win-win for the 49ers and Garoppolo.
And I think that's why everyone's so all in on him. And they're seeing it. You don't make that investment without knowing, hey, he's going to lead us and he's got that talent that can help us get to the next level.
I can't wait to see what happens with the 49ers next season, because that will be absolutely, it'd be stunning if they end up getting a playoff berth.
I'm cheering for them.
Again, another good story.
The Cleveland Cavaliers made a flurry, and I mean a flurry of trades at the trade deadline.
Oh, man.
Lance, is this a better team after the trade deadline, after shipping out basically half the roster?
Listen, in the short term, yes, they are. In the long term, are they a better team? That really would have depended on how well Isaiah Thomas came along on this team. In the short term, they're a better team. They got rid of Thomas, who hadn't been the guy they wanted him to be since coming back from
probably wasn't fully healthy either.
No, he probably wasn't fully healthy. Plus, he had to play with LeBron. They dealt Channing Frye. They dealt a 2018 first-round pick. They get Jordan Clarkson and Larry Nance Jr. Look, Clarkson is a way more reliable backcourt option for them. And Nance gives the Cavs another front court presence that they need. I think, and that's not even getting into some of these other things like the Hood, the Hill. they're a better team in the short term, yes.
And the thing that I saw, and obviously we've only seen the Boston game where Cleveland kicked the tar out of them, literally kicked the tar out of them. They're switching on defense. They're doing a lot of things defensively that look good on the surface. Now, granted, it's one game, but you have Rodney Hood, who can play a backup role and shoot the ball. Jordan Clarkson, who shoots the ball extremely well.
Still shooting 39% from the three-point arc.
Yeah, but he does a little bit better when he's not the guy, right?
Right.
Like, these guys are going to do so much better.
It's like Kyrie Irving's the opposite of that.
Yeah.
He did better when he was the guy.
when he took it all on. I agree. And I kind of disagree a little bit. I think this sets Cleveland up for this year being good, to have a shot to go to the NBA Finals, short term. But I think it also sets it up life post LeBron. If LeBron leaves, you have a bunch of pieces. You have some guys that you could possibly build around. You could sign a free agent, and I don't know if that happens, but I think they're kind of like hedging their bets right now with this lineup. It's interesting to see.
The thing that was really fascinating of all these trades was the Dwayne Wade trade.
Yeah.
They brought this guy in. They had to know they were getting an old dude. It's like an old man out there on the court.
Washed up,
But they brought him in almost certainly because LeBron wanted his buddy in there.
It's his boy.
So is LeBron just all of a sudden like, you know what? This guy's a dog. Let's get him out of here. Let's get him over back to Miami where he wants to retire. That was a hey, Dwayne, we're going to help you out here. We're going to get you back to Miami where you really want to be.
Yeah. You finish playing, be with your wife and kids.
Right. That was a here's a nice for you. Here's a nice for you.
Yeah.
But like, why would you bring that guy in the first place? There's no way he's helping your team.
Well, it's because LeBron GMs the team. That was part of the problem. He brought in all his old boys.
And that's the point I'm trying to make, is how long before this experiment that they have now blows up because LeBron doesn't like it?
Yeah, well, a month, a week. You never know with LeBron. He's very moody.
Use that in over-under that's coming up.
That sounds good to me. I'll put it in mine. Sneaking it in.
Albert's on the other side. Dwayne Wade's what, like 60 years old?
Oh, he plays like he's 80. It's unbelievable.
We're back, and the gloves are still off.
How many of our viewers would remember the song Rump Shaker by Rex and Effect?
Tweet.
I do.
How many viewers do you think would? I feel like some would.
Well, of our 7,000 viewers that are going to watch this, I think 5,000 will probably look it up.
You're probably right. Mm-hmm. We were talking about it off camera. So if you don't know what Rex and Effect Rump Shaker is, you absolutely must check it out.
Cue it up.
Cue it up. Speaking of cue it up, let's cue up some Albert.
Okay.
He's got some stuff here for us. Okay, this is really incredible. I'm going to read this because it's a thread that was like this long. So I'm going to read this first one. So this is Alistair McAlpine at AlistairMCA30. For an assignment, I asked some of my terminal pediatric palliative care patients what they had enjoyed in life and what gave it meaning. Kids can be so wise, you know. Here are some of the responses. So there aren't any responses because it's a thread. I'm telling you, we're going to put that tweet back up here. Go and find this thread and read it. Take the 2 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever it's going to take. If you can't read, get someone to read it for you, because it is an unbelievable thing what you will see that these kids said to him what was important, and none of it was material items. None of it.
Hey,
amazing.
there's mail.
It'll give you some perspective. Give you some perspective.
Kids are a lot smarter than you give them credit for.
Sure they are.
And
They're
value
like animals.
Yeah, and they value things.
Animals. That was a bad comparison, but animals are a lot smarter than you give them credit for it too.
It's just their value
Not this
system
one, but-
built in. This
Sorry,
is a good
I
animal.
cut you off.
No, this is a good animal.
I'm telling you, please take a minute and read it. And if you do, and you want to tweet back at us at Gloves TV or myself, just please do with your thoughts on that thread, because I know it wasn't sports related, but it was amazing and it had to be put out there.
And if you're tweeting at Lance Phillips TV,
That's right.
got her.
Or King or Chris, like this guy.
Yeah.
This guy, King or
You
Chris.
might not get an answer from me, so I don't. But, Barrett Sally here, at Barrett Sally. Jacob Copeland commits to Florida. Jacob Copeland's mom, wearing an Alabama shirt and Tennessee hat, gets up and leaves. This is amazing. I saw this live. We talked about this. You know, parents are excited for their kids. You want them to go to school. But when your kid chooses an elite SEC school like Florida, you don't walk out on them in the press conference.
I want to say something that if you're a parent and you've got kids in athletics like this, just be happy for them being there. Just be happy that they're there, happy they've made this decision to go to, as you said, an elite school, happy to be on the floor. This kind of stuff like interfering is absolutely not necessary. It's Bush is what it is. And so now he's got to make amends to his mother in a way when it should be the other way around.
It's unfair to put that type of pressure on a kid. And we see it all the time on college athletics. Like, it's his decision, it's his life. Let him make his decisions and deal with his repercussions.
And he's an adult. He's what, 19 years old probably?
It's going to be fine. Like, hey, Lance, you can't go to that school because I told you.
Yeah, exactly. What happens if he doesn't get any playing time? Holy cow. ESPN at ESPN. Steelers linebacker Ryan Shazier got to his feet after receiving a standing ovation from the Pittsburgh Penguins crowd. I'm at a loss for words. I mean, I retweeted this with a quote, and I said, "No, you're crying," because I'm literally like trying not to drop water out of my eyeballs.
And he's, like we said, such a quality character guy for the Steelers locker room. You talk about someone that changes the locker room, that's the guy. And to see him recover like this?
Yeah. What's amazing is that this guy went out there and punished people as a linebacker.
Yep.
And he has people, they had to help him out of this chair just to stand up. Like, it's unbelievable.
Hey, there's mail.
Yeah, it really makes you reevaluate life.
It does. And the other thing, too, is it gives you some insight into how mentally tough that guy must be.
Yeah.
To say, hey, this is not going to keep me down. Literally, I'm going to stand up. I'm going to try to walk again. I'm going to do the things I used to do.
I'm getting through
obviously
this.
Other than football, but it's the mental toughness that's involved in that it's mind-boggling.
And not to continue that point, but the amount of players that went to see him in the hospital shows how much he was cared for by the organization.
Says a lot.
I got Tara Sloan here, at Tara Sloan. Could be the greatest interview I've ever read. Read it, seriously. Quincy Jones says he used to buy drugs from Malcolm X, and he knows who killed JFK. That's just the beginning.
That interview is nuts.
I have not seen this, but I am very intrigued right now.
It's nuts. I'm not going to give it away. Again, another one of those, go watch it, go check it out, go read it.
Yeah.
You've got mail.
It's well worth it.
You say JFK, I'm in. I'm in. I want to know.
Paul Bromby. So Paul Bromby, at Paul Bromby. Paul Bromby is a producer for Hockey Night in Canada on Sportsnet. Maybe the best part of my job is text communications with Breeze Goalie 30. So that's Ilya Brizgalov. Hey, Ilya, sorry about the late message, but we won't have your hit today. We have some breaking news and other things we can't drop. No worries, I'll Gucci. LOL, please tell me you meant to say Gucci instead of good. That will make my day. I meant to say Gucci. My son here replaced good with Gucci. Gucci, right? Yes, LOL.
Gucci.
Brizgalov is a guy that really should never be in broadcasting, but should always be in broadcasting.
Do you ever watch him on the road to the Winter Classic?
Oh
my goodness. He is.
But it's amazing at the same time.
He's one of those guys that you kind of want to be around just to hear, what is he going to say? What's he going to do? He's like legit crazy, but funny crazy.
Beauty.
Yeah.
Just pure beauty.
Andrew Pang, at the AP journalist. Journalism isn't dead. I found a squirrel dragging a newspaper up a tree.
It's incredible.
Amazing. Like, just amazing.
Print isn't dead.
Hey, there's mail.
It's going to be a healthy nest up
I think
there.
we got time for one more. Hannah Nordman, at HL Nordman. This is mesmerizing. Like, one kid goes, they all go. Hannah Nordman, a girl I used to go to school with. Pretty top quality individual.
You've got
I'm
mail.
saying that because I have to, because she will hurt me.
Oh, gotcha. All right, let's see what I got coming up here. The dreaded Corporal Matthews.
Corporal Matthews. Love Corporal Matthews.
Here we go.
All right. I know you struggle with this.
We chased brave CPL Anderson from Fort Toronto. He showed incredible fortitude attempting to evade us while we are so very strong. His swashbuckling pirate leader, Captain Carlson, was no match for the heroic efforts of PTE Marner. Fort Toronto is proud tonight.
Yes, nicely done, Kinger.
I was saying Old English and Chris
Mail in
King
the beak.
are not, like, that's not a good combo, but I got through that.
Hey, guess what? Corporal Matthews.
Oh, he's back. He wrote a second letter.
Mother, today the men pooled together their bread ration to make a pudding as a reward for PTE Marner. He loves his desserts so. The only one who held back was PFC Komarov, who uses his to make moonshine. It's hard to begrudge him for such an elite move. AM. that Twitter account is absolutely incredible. Well worth it.
Every day you can check that. There's good stuff on there every single day.
I love it. so good. Like one of my favorite ones to read all the time.
Yeah, they're gold.
We're back. You can keep your gloves on, but ours are off.
We had a few we didn't get to. We had Mr. T that we didn't get to, talking curling.
Yeah,
I would just love to see Mr. T curl.
he's got some hot takes, Mr. T.
Still
Real hot
wears
takes.
50 pounds of chain around his neck. Okay, winner, loser. We got a bunch here. How would I start it off?
Go.
All right. I've got a winner and a loser kind of coming from the same category, same thing, if you will. We'll start with my winner. My winner is Isaiah Thomas.
Yes.
Because he's out of Cleveland and away from LeBron James.
Did you see what he said?
I did not.
First game he's played this year with his teammates cheering on the bench. He said it was such a great feeling
That's
to be out there and
incredible.
have his teammates cheering and
What a
supporting
punch
him.
in the gut to the Cavs.
Yeah, like right away. And then he said, I don't want to talk about Cleveland, but he said it was great to play for the Lakers.
So he's happy to be out of there.
He's happy. What's the loser link to that one? Or you can bring it later. You bring it later?
You go,
Okay,
and then
okay.
I'll go.
Okay, you go, I go, you go, I go. Okay, winner, Golden State Warriors. Steve Kerr decided to not coach his team the other night and let his players coach. A couple of them in suits. I thought this was a fantastic move because he said his players are sick of his voice. This happens to me. It happens to any coach during the season. They need a fresh voice. The players drew up the plays. Apparently Steph Curry forgot what he was doing when he drew up the play and forgot all the other players except for himself. Weird. But I think it was really good that he empowered his team and gave them the chance to lead.
Have you seen the clip of Steve Kerr talking to Steph Curry?
About his confidence, yeah. How amazing it is, his confidence, yeah.
That's what makes a good coach great.
Well, and it's easy in that, not easy. He does such a good job connecting to his guys, and that's his elite star. You're not going to tell that guy anything.
No.
He's just pumping him and saying you're doing a great job. It was great to watch.
You can be rest assured, though, that those elite stars have moments of clarity where they're like, yeah, I suck today, and you know, probably have down moments where they're like, am I ever going to get this stroke back, right? Or am I ever gonna do what I was doing before? And I'm sure they have that, and that's why you got great coaches that can do that kind of thing. Smart move.
Yes.
Take a note, Kinger.
I am.
My loser is LeBron, because he's just a loser. He is, honestly, like, this is a guy who is essentially trying to take over a team. He's trying to be a player coach, and he players want to play with him until they play with him, and then they don't want to play with him. He's a loser.
Okay. Yes.
I'm sorry.
That was aggressive. I'm with you, though. I've never been a LeBron fan. My kids always seem to like LeBron. And I just don't like the drama and the me stuff.
How old are your kids?
No, my players.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant your kids. Like, kids are like 2 years old.
Yeah, my kid can like shoot a basketball. That's it. She doesn't know anything. But they're drawn to him, right? He's a star. And usually stars should do a good job of incorporating their team. He doesn't.
Until your kids start to understand that there's a more to playing and more to being a teammate than what that's just being a star on the court.
Yeah, I always just think.
Until they understand that, that's what they're going to do.
Do you want to play with that guy? Do you want to play for Steph Curry? Do you want to play with LeBron? That's an easy choice, who I'd want to play with. But I got a loser here. Not as bad as a loser, but close. The NCAA is my big loser. Jacoby Boykins from Louisiana Tech got teed twice in a game this last week. It's on Twitter. I encourage you to look it up.
Yeah.
First for blocking.
We'd show it, but we can't show the B-roll.
Yeah, blocking a shot. He came down and a ref on the baseline teed him up. He didn't say anything. He didn't make any facial expression. Targeted tee. Later on in the game, he makes the steal, goes down in transition, crams on a guy, jogs back. The ref at half court tees him again, gets thrown out of the game. This type of targeting by the NCAA cannot happen, and I have them as a big loser here. We watched this earlier, and it's embarrassing.
It's embarrassing for all parties involved. It's embarrassing for the player. It's embarrassing for the official. It's embarrassing for the NCAA, as you said. Here's the bigger question. If you're the NCAA, what are you doing about this?
You have to suspend him.
You absolutely have to suspend that official.
Yeah.
You can't allow that to carry on.
And it was clearly personal because on the dunk that he scored, underneath the rim, there's an official right there. That official didn't do anything, didn't even raise his hands, and the guy over at half called it. And now all the, like, Jay Billis and all the NCAA guys are getting on board, like, this has to stop. He has to be suspended.
The problem is if you don't stop it, it just fosters more of that type of behavior, which can turn into an ugly situation very, very quickly. Okay, I've got another loser on board. And my loser, like the NCAA, is the ACAC.
Ooh.
For those who don't know, typically what happens is the Lakeland Rustlers would get us by, or would not get a bye, pardon me, I'm totally lost here. What would happen in the ACAC Conference Championships is that the top 2 teams would automatically get a berth into the national championship. But because Grand Prairie is hosting this year, means that one of the 2 best volleyball teams in the country, who I believe are the Rustlers and the Briarcrest Clippers, one of those teams will not make the national championship because Grand Prairie, who is hot garbage, is going to get a spot and will not make it out of the first round in the national championship. And ACAC is a loser for that because Grand Prairie has that spot. I understand that the rules... Sorry, carry on.
No, I like that you consistently put me on the hot seat with the ACAC, and you're right about this. It's unfortunate that in a national championship, the best teams are not going to be there.
I'm going to correct you. It's blasphemy is what it is. It's not unfortunate. It's blasphemy is what it is. That you've got 2 of the definitely top 3 schools in the country. I'd say the top two teams in the country, and one's not getting in.
Yeah, it's a shame because if they were there, one would be playing for gold, one would win bronze. I could guarantee it because they always set it up, the draw, the Alberta schools play on the same side. It's unfortunate, the hosting, I think you should still have to qualify as a host. Personally, that's my thing. I don't have a problem.
I understand that as a host you get you could make the case that the Leamington Bobcats, who hosted the RBC Cup a few years ago, didn't get into the RBC Cup. Like they got in because they were the host. They didn't win their way into the playoffs,
right.
But they performed very well,
yes.
And they were a good team. So I don't have a problem if the host team gets in. But I do have a problem if the host team gets in and they've only won 3 matches all year, or whatever it is that Grand Prairie's won. There needs to be a level that team has to achieve, and if they don't, they're not getting in as the host.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter because there's no incentive for this team to be great.
Yeah, you forfeit your berth. Well, and usually what happens in the bidding process is you bid when you know you're going to be strong.
Right.
So Grand Prairie was strong last year. They were in the bronze medal game last year, which is fantastic. Coach leaves, a bunch of players leave,
right.
And now
and
they're
the coaching
in trouble.
went downhill as well as the play.
Yeah, so that caused a lot of trouble. But usually that's part of the bid package is we're going to be strong. I got a winner.
Yes.
NHL coaches.
Oh.
No NHL coaches fired this year. This is the longest into a season without a firing since 1966, 1967 season.
That's impressive.
How amazing is that?
Yeah, that is impressive. And there's some bad NHL teams.
Yeah, and now that we talked about this, for sure, someone's getting fired by Friday. For sure. It's going to happen. We're like the jinx.
I believe that I had that Todd McClellan or Peter Shirelli would be canned by the 1st of February in bold predictions.
I think I had a coach getting fired that's now went 21-8 since then. So if you want us to make your team win, we'll talk crap about them. That's kind of what we can do.
That's pretty impressive, though. The NHL's gone this long without a firing.
It's real good.
It's inevitable, right? You almost feel like, okay, when are the floodgates opening? When are guys going on the block?
No one's safe. It's coming. It's coming.
When are they going to the cannery?
If you can't score, you might as well drop the gloves.
Welcome back, folks. We're going to do some over-under right now. I feel like we got some good ones lined up here.
Solid, really solid crew today.
A solid crew of over-unders.
Mm-hmm. You want me to lead?
Yeah, I would love that.
All right. Over-under, 2.5 Canadian teams making the NHL playoffs.
Oh man, that's a tough one.
I got him right off the start.
I'm going to stick to my guns on this. I'm going to take the under. I believe 2 will. Toronto Maple Leafs and the Calgary Flames are the only Canadian teams to make the playoffs. Sorry. Sorry. I'm going to take the over. Pardon me, Winnipeg Jets. I'm going to take the over, 3.
So you got Calgary making it?
I got Calgary, Winnipeg, and Toronto making it.
Okay, because I got Winnipeg and Toronto for my locks, Calgary on the fence. I'm going to go against you. I'm going to go under. I'm going to say
Calgary gets in?
Doesn't sneak in.
No. Okay, that's a good one. Calgary's got a lot of talent. They've got some good goaltending, of which Smith just avoided a nasty injury. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be fine. Okay. I expect them to get into one of those wild card spots. And I expect them to make some noise in one of those wildcard spots.
And it's always better when there's more Canadian teams in the NHL playoffs. Always better.
Better for Canadian
Viewers.
sports networks who paid billions of dollars for the rights to the NHL. That's for sure. I won't name any names, Sportsnet. Okay, I have the Bandits, the local Lloydminster Bandits, who had a season to forget at some points.
Yep.
Losing 7 straight. And then winning 6 of 7, if I'm not mistaken, down the stretch. 5 of 7, something like that. They opened the playoffs against Killam in Killam tonight at 8:30. So immediately after the Gloves. So if you have time to race to Killam, do it. Best of 7 series. Regardless of the amount of games the series goes, the Bandits will score 16.5 goals over the course of this series.
Ooh,
Could go 4, could go 7, could go 5. It's a best of 7.
Yeah, I'm with you on the over. There's a lot of talent there in terms of goals.
You think they're the over on that?
Yeah, I'm going to go over, yeah.
I'm going to take the under.
Under?
Yes. I'm going to take the under on this because I don't think this series goes 7 games. I think it goes 5 or 6.
Interesting. I worry about, there could be one of those 7-5 games right off the hop.
There could be.
Just that league is so wide open some nights. The scoring and the penalties.
Fair.
And yeah.
And this is a series where there will be a ton of penalties.
So special teams.
And if Lloydminster wants to win this series, it needs to stay out of the penalty box. It's the only way Lloydminster can beat Killam is if it stays out of the penalty box.
Guys like Jesse Stansfield can't be taking 4-minute spearing penalties.
No, Jess, you can't take 4-minute spearing penalties.
Yeah, big problem, Jess.
Jess, don't do it, Jess. Jess.
So I got one. I think this is going to be another tough one. I might stump you again. NBA All-Star Game this weekend. 180.5 for the winning team. Over under 180.
Didn't we just do this, or was it Josh and I?
You didn't do it with me.
No, it was Josh and I that did it. So
okay.
So he said that 400 points combined or something, or some ridiculous thing. I don't remember what it was. It was crazy though. I'm going to take the under on this. I can't imagine that one of these teams is going to score over 180 points. I know that they scored, 196 last year?
Yeah, they basically just stand there and let each other dunk.
I know.
It's
so
a
I'm
waste
going
of
to take
time.
the under on this.
Okay, I'm going to go over, just for the point's sake. At some point, something, I guess, good for the fans, cool will happen. This needs to be fixed along with other stuff. I like what the NHL did to switch up their All-Star game.
Yeah.
I'm kind of with that on the MLB as well.
Right, and while they're at it, they can revamp the dunk contest so that guys who should win the dunk contest actually win the dunk contest.
Yeah.
Who was it from the Magic a couple years ago?
Oh, Aaron Gordon.
Right.
Yeah.
Like when he did the legs flat over top of the mascot, that was the winning dunk. Like there's no way that could have been beaten.
Yeah, I'm not really sure why guys don't go in the dunk contest. There's some guys that should be in it every year that they don't put in.
Why don't they do like a 40-plus dunk contest? So Vince.
Well,
Carter
Vince is winning that hands down.
All right. Rustlers basketball has a weekend full of games against the King's University Eagles. Combined, 4 games, men's and women. The Rustlers basketball teams will allow 250 points combined. Will allow for 4 games.
Okay.
I picked this one because it's something that we can achieve this weekend. We'll know at the end of the weekend.
I like that you're talking we. You're wearing the green. I think they could go under. It could go under. I think if our...
So you're taking the under on this?
Yeah, I'm going to go under.
Under.
What's yours? And I'll tell you why in a second here.
I'm going to take the under as well, and I'm going to tell you why I'm taking the under. Because I believe that the weekend that your girls just had against Augustana was a real wake-up call. And I believe that there is going to be some defensive stops made on the women's. It's the women's team that I believe will make the under, not the men's. Men's is good defensively, but they're too inconsistent. I believe we've seen a spot where the women's team is going to be like, we're changing this.
I'm hopeful for that. We cannot give up that many points again. So
no, 144 to give up.
And when Shrey's guys are dialed in, they're really athletic, and they'll cause some problems for King's College. So I'm going to be with you on that. I'm going to stay with the under. You're going to like this one. We talk about them a lot. 5.5 roster moves from right now till September next year of the active roster Edmonton Oilers this offseason.
Woo.
5.5 players will be off this roster.
You mean 5.5 will be gone?
Yeah, will be moved. Will be moved, traded.
Okay, so you're not
Yeah.
talking like
Or
one
released.
player traded, another player brought in. You
No,
just mean
yeah, that's one.
5.5 players will
Yeah.
be moved. Wow. I'm gonna take the over. I'm gonna take the over on that.
Yeah, when I sat down on that, I thought maybe
Patrick
that's-
Maroon is the first to go.
I'm interested to see what they're going to do and how they're going to make some moves.
Did you take the over under?
I'm going to go over with the. Yeah.
Okay. The Lloydminster Bobcats, who have been a very pleasant surprise of late, very pleasant, have 6 games remaining. Here's the teams. Whitecourt, 3rd place. Spruce Grove Saints, which are 1st. Camrose, can't remember they are in the south. Sherwood Park ×2, who they're tied with right now. Grand Prairie, they'll win 3.5 of those games.
3.5. I am going to go over.
You're gonna go over?
4.
I'm taking the over as well. I think they'll win 4 as well.
It's a good streak heading into playoffs there, fellas.
I said it before, this team is gonna finish 4th and host a home playoff game. They're playing really well.
We're back, and the gloves are still off.
Okay, so we originally had some what we learned we were going to do here, but we changed it during the break. We want to touch on something that hits home for a lot of people. Hits home for you because you coach players. You're at a school where this is involved. It hits home for me because I deal with it regularly. We talked about the Johnny Manziel mental health situation. And we wanted to hit on this a little bit more as it pertains to athletes, because this is a major problem. And we just recently finished with Bell Let's Talk Day, which is a massive success. It's a great day. But the thing that bothers me about this day is that it feels like the conversation ends fairly quickly after the day is over, and it doesn't carry on. ACAC has some make some noise for mental health, but once it's over, it feels like it's over.
And I think that's one of the things when you talk about mental health, especially with athletes. These initiatives are fantastic. It gets it out there. It makes the athletes feel like it's okay to be not okay, right, to quote it. But the resources are lacking what to do after that point, right? Well, who do you see? Counselors, psychologists, who can you go to talk to about all this stuff? And the things that we see, and I'm just talking about from the college level, but even when I played, like the stress, depression, anxiety, insomnia, right? Suicide, all these things are linked into the mental health picture, and a lot of times the athletes themselves and the teammates don't know how to handle it. They don't know where to go or who to talk to. And I think that's the frustrating part that you're talking about is where do you go? What's the road path to help get better that Johnny Manziel talked about?
We're talking about athletes too. We're not even talking about coaches. We're not even discussing coaches because there's a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety on coaches as well, right? But speaking from a Lakeland standpoint, does Lakeland College have the resources? I mean, I would say that they probably don't to deal with this and I know that you're employed by them, but do they have the resources to deal with this kind of thing effectively?
I don't think any school is prepped to deal with it effectively right now, post-secondary, and not even just for student athletes, but for the students in general. I think that a psychologist is going to become necessary in the near future for...
It's necessary now. It's not necessary
for athletic departments.
It's not necessary in the near future. It's necessary right now. Things need to be in place to deal with this kind of... Look, it's exactly like, if you had a player that... Ryan Shazier is a great example. He injures his neck. What if you don't have the people at the facility to deal with that?
Well, yeah.
So you have a kid that breaks his neck, on a football field, and you've got, somebody that just comes out and is the trainer. It's the same thing. You don't have the people there to deal with that, and that's not okay, but it's okay to not have people deal with these types of issues. Look at, breaking limbs, that's bad stuff. But committing suicide because you don't have the right people in place to help those people through that, that's way worse.
And I think that was the interesting piece from the Johnny Manziel that I took. Like, it took him a long time to get to that point, and he talks about this is something you deal with every single day. It doesn't go away.
It never does.
And I will say the resources are not there, and that's Alberta-wide, Canada-wide. It's just not there to get the help that's needed. And it needs to be more available. When I've had players in the past want to go for an appointment, you're waiting 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Well, that's not great. That's not helping in the meantime. So a lot of times coaches become counselors in terms of dealing with them and talking to them. And we're obviously not psychologists by any means, but we're probably the closest interaction point for some of those athletes.
It's funny because when I think of being a young athlete who at the time didn't really understand what I was dealing with. Although at the time I'm sure I was dealing with mental issues, but didn't know it until I finally went and seeked help for it, obviously years later. Even if I had at that point, there was nobody in place to deal with that. I mean, absolutely nobody. And even at that point, if you went to your parents, it was very much you'll feel better tomorrow, or
don't
feel like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't feel like that, or worse, like you just said, don't talk about that.
Old school.
And for me, the big healing part of this was not actually seeking psychiatric help. The big help was actually just talking to other people who've dealt with it. That's the huge help. And like you said, not every day is right, because it's not. You have days where, and I have lots of days where you literally do not feel like moving. Yeah. Like if there was a rock that you could crawl under, you'd do it, right? But sometimes just talking to other people about it and say, hey, how do you overcome this? What do you do to overcome this? Helps immensely. And for athletes, there's still, I believe, a stigma that there has to be some sort of toughness there to overcome that. And that needs to be kind of crumbled.
Yeah, and I think athletes are scared to come forward with that type of thing.
For sure,
I watched Claire Hughes speak, and she was fantastic and talked about all the things that she dealt with and mentally, like how that really like pushed her almost away from sport. And I don't think adults realize that it happens to a lot of people, and it's okay to talk about it. And the talking is part of the healing process, and knowing that other people go through the same thing. And that, as we talked about earlier in the show, like watching the Manziel interview, it's really interesting to see him talk about the little baby steps he had to do and really focus on himself. And now to get his love of football back, because he's focused so much on the mental side of things, that's what he has to take care of first, himself, before anything else.
It's crazy that, obviously everybody knows that, alcohol is a depressant, so it can actually bring out worse of those same types of feelings you're having.
Yeah.
But when I think about him going through those types of issues and using that as a scapegoat, as I said earlier, I see how that works. I totally see how that works. You get together with your buddies, you go have some drinks, you do a few lines or whatever you're doing,
yeah.
and all of a sudden you're partying it up, and those feelings might be gone. They come back. Well, they don't leave, they come back.
And you're just evading it for a few minutes, hours, a night, right? You're just pushing aside what you're truly feeling, and you're just masking it in an unhealthy way.
I think the bottom line is that if you're an athlete, even if you're not an athlete, the number one thing you can do is reach out to people that you might know that deal with this, coaches, players. Don't be afraid to talk about it, and it shouldn't be just a one-day chat, right? It's just something that should be going on through the entire year, and always trying to get better. But thanks for watching. We'll catch you in 7 days.